Third and goal. Let's talk about an actual functioning organization, one of those organizations that probably wouldn't cut Jalen Smith. Patriots looked really good against the Buccaneers. I will say, anytime you lose by 2 points to the reigning champs, I feel like you can't be very upset about that. Big shocking thing, they were going to release Stephon Gilmore, and then they ended up getting a 6th rounder from the Panthers for Stephon Gilmore, because that's what good teams do, is they get stuff back for their good players. But I digress. So, Connor, give me your thoughts on both the Patriots getting rid of Stephon Gilmore and just their overall outlook on the season and in the future.
So I'm getting rid of Stephon Gilmore. I don't think they're losing a ton in him moving away. J.C. Jackson looks like a very good coverage corner in the NFL. He gets burned every once in a while, but I think that's mostly because he's still young. I think this is only his 2nd or 3rd season. So he's still learning. Jonathan Jones is coming on as a great slot corner. Kyle Duggar, especially with the leadership of Devin McCourty at free safety in that secondary, I think it helps them a lot. There's a lot of young guys who are still floating around in that secondary who looks good. But I don't think it severely impacts them losing Stephon Gilmore. When Stephon Gilmore first came in New England, he was awful. That first season he played, he was absolutely terrible. He came on in his 2nd and 3rd year. He looked great. He was probably the best coverage corner in the NFL at that time for a streak there. I don't think they lose a ton. So I'm fine with it. He was also on IR, wasn't going to be back till at least week 6 anyway. So, give and take. As for the rest of that team in the game against, Tom Brady's homecoming, they looked good. That team as a whole looked like they finally had gotten it together. I get it. You lose by 2 at home in a questionable 4th down decision, in my opinion, having Nick Folk kick his career long in the pouring rain. But doesn't matter. Mac Jones looks like he's figured it out. He makes the decisions he needs to make to get them in positions to score. That pick he had was kind of, it was a deflection. The thing they need to work on is their fumbles. The running backs have dropped way too many balls at the end of runs this year. They need to fix that. Overall, offense and defense-wise, as a Patriots fan, I'm optimistic. I think, having Bill Belichick as a head coach means you're guaranteed win. You're going to win games just because you have him as a head coach. His son, on the other hand, I don't know if you saw the faces he was making, but he looks like he was on something good on Sunday night.
Yeah, he did.
He was just having one.
Yeah, he does.
Anyway, I'm optimistic. I know when the Pats took Mac Jones, I really wanted them to trade up and take Justin Fields. I will admit that. I'm open about that. Kyle and I have talked about this. Seeing Mac Jones fit into the system in New England has changed my mind. I think Mac Jones was the right pick. I think he fits much better in the Josh McDaniels, Bill Belichick system than even I would like to admit. Jacoby Myers looks good. Obviously, they don't have a true one receiver in the NFL. Nelson Aguilar, even Jonnu Smith has been split wide. I don't think he's lined up as a tight end all that much. Hunter Henry, great pickup. The offensive line looks solid for the most part. They look good. I think Tom Brady was playing with a lot of nerves. We saw him almost break down a couple times throughout the intro and everything else. I think he was playing with a lot of nerves, a lot of emotion. But the Patriots played everything they possibly could to the best of their ability. I think that is very productive for them, because when you still have to play the Bills twice in the season, obviously I don't think they win those games. But if they can do the same thing that they did with Tampa to the Bills, I think there's a chance that they make the games close, as we saw, right? So as a Pats fan, I'm optimistic. I think they're building something. Are they going to go anywhere this season? No, probably not. We all know the Bills are going to run that division into the ground and not have to worry about anything. But moving forward, they need to get a true one receiver. But the rest of the team looks good. I think they have a solid base. to build the future on, and I think Mac Jones is the key to that, even though I didn't think so when they took him. But I'm excited. It was fun to watch. They looked good, and I'm excited to see what happens next.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with you on the Stephon Gilmore thing. I don't think this affects the Patriots' outlook much at all. I think that they have depth at that position. I mean, J.C. Jackson is a legitimate star corner in the NFL. He's a lockdown guy. You're not scoring many touchdowns on J.C. Jackson. And they have depth there. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they signed that guy from the Ravens, who the only reason the Ravens were willing to get rid of him was because they had a ton of depth at the corner position. But he's supposed to be pretty good. It's a shame to let a guy like that, who was Defensive Player of the Year 2 years ago, for a 6th rounder. But he's been a little injury riddled the last season and a half, and he's expensive, right? So kind of just something you have to deal with, especially if you don't want that number on your salary cap. And in the NFL, a lot of times it's better to just cut the guy than wait out his contract of who knows if he comes back and is the same guy. We'd like to assume he is, but who knows? Mac Jones looked good. He looked really good. And I think that enough isn't said about game managers and their effectiveness in the NFL. I think we talked about it a little bit last week, but Mac Jones, for all intents and purposes, is a game manager, right? He's not Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, even Jalen Hurts. Whatever you think of him, I wouldn't necessarily call him a game manager. He's kind of one of those big play guys. Look, he's king of the under 10 yards per completion. Week 2, 22 completions, 186 yards. Try to work out how many yards per throw that is. This past week, 31 completions, 275 yards. All right. He's not going to do anything that's going to blow your mind, right? He's just not that sort of guy. But there's something to be said for being calm and composed in high pressure scenarios, which I would say this last week was. I understand it's not the playoffs, but that's about as close to a playoff game as you can get. Tom Brady, in his homecoming, you're the guy that's supposed to follow the guy, right? So obviously they had Cam Newton last year, but he was never going to be anything more than a stopgap between the two. You're supposed to be the next him, right? You're looking across the field. That's the guy that you're replacing, all right? And he's still going. Age 43. He's still good. He's proving that the Patriots should have never let him go, all right? That's the guy you're trying to replicate. Go ahead. Go out and see how that works. When the entire crowd loves him more than they probably will ever love you. All right? Mac Jones would have to do some impressive stuff in order for the Patriots fans to love him as much as they love Tom Brady. That is the golden child. Go ahead, Mac Jones. Go out and see how you do today. All right? And he looked good. He looked composed. He looked like he belonged there. And he's had his ups and downs. He hasn't always looked the most impressive. He had 3 interceptions last week. But I think that there's no negatives that come from this game against the Buccaneers for the Patriots, because they look good. If anything, it just shows that they need more talent on offense. Because like you said, Jacoby Myers, who at this point I'm going to assume that any player that the Patriots have used to be a quarterback in high school or college, because they whipped out that one. Jacoby Myers used to be a quarterback in high school. And I was like, where do they find these guys? All right, so I'm just going to assume that any receiver that joins the Patriots used to be a quarterback at some point in their life. But if anything, it just proves that they need more talent on offense, because Jacoby Myers is not a 1. He's probably one of those middle to low end 2s in the league. I think I had this conversation with a couple of my friends where I would easily, I think there's 20, I think I worked out 27 teams in the league that have a receiver that I would rather have than Jacoby Myers. And that's not including some like the Cowboys. I take all 3 receivers over Jacoby Myers. The Broncos, I take Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy over Jacoby Myers. So it's not including those. So he's probably somewhere in that 38 to 40 range as far as receivers go in the league. 35 might be the highest you'd put him. Kendrick Bourne is not a starting receiver in the league. Neither is Nelson Aguilar. Nelson Aguilar's a 3 at best. Jonnu Smith hasn't looked exceptional, but I mean, he's athletic. He's got the potential as a tight end, but how long is it going to be till we realize he's not going to realize that potential? Hunter Henry, I mean, he speaks for himself. He's a good player. There's not really much you can say about Hunter Henry that's bad. And the offensive line looks good. Their running backs have had a fumbling problem. Mac Jones reminds me a little bit of Dak Prescott in his rookie year. And I know that sounds weird because they don't play a similar play style at all. But hear me out. In Dak's rookie year, he kind of lacked all of the talent, but he always had the intangibles, right? He always looked the part of a Dallas Cowboys quarterback. He looked and spoke the part. And Dak's developed into that guy where his skills have increased and he still looks the part. And, you take Dak's intangibles over anybody in the league. And the lights have never looked too bright for Dak Prescott. He always looks calm and composed. There's never been a situation where you're like, he's rattled right now. It just hasn't happened. And Mac Jones kind of reminds me of that. He doesn't look rattled. And he looks like he belongs. He looks like the kind of kid where the lights are never too bright. He always belongs in the scenario, and he always full confidence that he's going to make something happen. I think Dak was more talented his rookie year than Mac Jones is right now, but I think the comparisons are still there as far as their intangibles go. He's been efficient. He's got some clear composure, and like I said, he's not afraid of the bright lights. But there's nothing wrong with being a game-managing quarterback. And you're going to look at his stat lines, and you're going to be like, oh, they're not great. Like I said, under 10 yards per completion. There is nothing wrong with being a game manager quarterback, especially as a rookie. Now, it matters that you develop outside of the guy that throws for less than 10 yards per completion. But as a rookie quarterback, you're probably looking for a game manager, someone who's not going to blow up the game. Would the Jets take Zach Wilson right now or Mac Jones? Because it's looking like Mac Jones is the better quarterback. I understand Zach Wilson has a million times more potential than Mac Jones, but would you rather have the guy who has a really high ceiling, but his floor is that he's gonna just wreck your games? Like he's gonna lose you games. Zach Wilson right now is the kind of quarterback that single-handedly will lose you games. Mac Jones is the kind of quarterback right now where he's not gonna do that. He might not single-handedly win you games, but he's never gonna lose you the game. That's not going to happen. If you lose, it's because the other team was better than you. It's never going to be because Mac Jones ruined the game. Not going to happen. And you said it. We both agreed that the Patriots should have drafted Justin Fields over Mac Jones. That they should have traded up. Obviously, they didn't end up getting that option because Justin Fields goes to the Bears, joins Matt Nagy, and gets his head blown off in his first start. But I hated the rumors. All right, I'm going to clarify something that I said on the not last podcast, but the podcast with the others that's also on this channel. Go watch and like and comment on that one. But I said when there was rumors of the 49ers taking Mac Jones at number 3, I said Mac Jones is not the type of quarterback that you trade up for. You don't trade up to draft a Mac Jones. Doesn't happen. And I never believed that was going to be the case. And if the 49ers ended up doing it, I would have said they were crazy. I still stand by that to this day. Mac Jones is not the kind of quarterback that you trade up for. You trade up for really high upside, which Trey Lance has, and the potential for something exceptional. Mac Jones is not exceptional. But Mac Jones is the quarterback that if he drops to your 15-16 range of teams, you start thinking, maybe this guy isn't so bad. Maybe we take a shot here. We got Cam Newton at starting quarterback. We're not really sold on him. He's not our long-term solution there. And here's this guy sitting right here with the potential, to be a solid guy in the NFL. Comes from Alabama, Nick Saban. That offense. He understands what it's like to be in a really strict program. Nick Saban at Alabama, Bill Belichick at the New England Patriots, they're friends. They get each other. Maybe this guy's the right pick. He's the type of guy. He's that type of guy. And he's not the type of guy you trade up for, but he is that guy that if he falls to you, it could be a good pick. And right now it's looking like a pretty good pick for the Patriots. They've got a lot of work to do. They need to add some talent. But overall, I think they're looking pretty good. I don't know. Is that crazy to say that I would still take Trey Lance over Mac Jones even though he hasn't started a game?
No, because I mean, we all know. I think the consensus was, at least for me, was if the Niners had taken Mac Jones at 3, you would have drafted Jimmy G's duplicate, right? They're the same quarterback, same everything, right? You got a guy who can make the throws, make some plays, but he's not anything that's going to, blow the top off of a building, right? And that's what Mac Jones is. And another thing Mac Jones did, which I thought was incredibly, productive for the Patriots, 19 straight completions for Mac Jones in that game.
He improved as the game went on.
That's very good. He got better as that game went on. And like you said, he's not going to blow the top off of an offense. He's not going to, you're not worried about him scrambling. You're not very similar to, Tom Brady. Yes, Tom had a 6-yard run for a first down. I get it. He ran. Mac Jones is the kind of guy who will always be in perfect control of your offense, right? We talk about guys like Baker Mayfield in that type of quarterback where it's like, I think Mac Jones has a higher upside than Baker does just because, and I know Baker can make the throws, but I think Mac is the guy who will always be in control. There's not going to be a point where he's going to be like freaking out and making poor decisions or poor throws as he goes forward and learns more in the NFL. He's going to be that guy who sits there and just sees everything he needs to see. And even if it is a check down or, a 10-yard pass, everything is just going to be in line with exactly what you want. He's the kind of guy you're not worried about, like, oh, is he going to try and hit a 50-yard bomb down the field in a double coverage? It's not going to happen. He's going to take the 15-yard post that's wide open. So that's the thing for me is Mac Jones is the kind of guy that is just always going to make the right decision. And I think that's my biggest upside on him is he's just safe. But that safety is going to get you long time-eating drives. It's going to get you points eventually, and you just have to trust it. I think that's what a lot of people are looking for in that right now.
Yeah, we should clarify that at some point you need to not be too safe, right? That's what happened with Alex Smith in his early years on the Chiefs, where everyone was like, oh, check down Alex, 3rd and 15, with the game on the line, he's going to throw it to the running back in the flat, and he's going to gain 5 yards because he doesn't want to risk it throwing downfield. At some point, you have to become more than just that guy. But there's nothing wrong with being that guy, the safe guy, in your rookie year. And if anything, it's positive to see that because a lot of the times rookies struggle with decision making, that they struggle with that. Oh, let's just play it safe. Trevor Lawrence is the golden boy. All right, he's been the number 1 draft pick since his junior year of high school, and even he's struggling with the decision making part. So to see Mac Jones be able to process the information, and that Bucs defense is a good defense, and be able to process the information and hit 19 straight completions, which was really a big point in that game. He did that at the biggest portion of the game when they needed points. He did that. And his one incompletion was a shot to the end zone to Jonnu Smith that he put just over his head. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I do think it's important. He has to develop outside of that point, outside of we need to play it safe. Let's just watch out here, But overall, I think it's positive signs.
I think that comes with getting him serviceable receivers, getting a true one, I was super stoked when they took N'Keal Harry a few years ago. N'Keal Harry caught his first pass on Sunday night all season. It was the first game he played. N'Keal Harry might be the biggest busted wide receiver that we've seen in a very long time, especially a guy going in the first round.
Kevin White comes to mind.
Yeah. But we need, and we can talk about other people, but they need that true one guy. And they don't have it. They don't even have a true 2. As good as Jacoby Myers is in short range, he's essentially a glorified slot guy who has to play outside because they don't have anyone else. Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, they don't have those threats on the outside of that offense to make you worry about anything. And I think if they get that, Mac Jones will develop more. Until that happens, he will be the safe guy because they don't have any other option. Like, I really wanted them to go out and get Kenny Golladay in free agency. They don't do it. They go and get some, other guys. But big thing for me, incredible. Couldn't be happier with the Matthew Judon pickup. I mean, right? It's probably the best decision they made all season. He looks like an absolute monster. So going forward, let's hope they don't keep playing it safe. Let's hope they go get him some threats on the outside and he can develop, because as a safe quarterback only gets you so far.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on. 4th and goal. We got the best and the worst of the past week. We've been doing it the past 2 weeks. I say we just keep it going because there was some really bad stuff this week and a couple of good things. I'll let you go first, Connor. What was your best? Actually, what was your worst? Let's start with your worst.
My worst is the Titans. I know we've already talked about it, but you can't do that. You can't be a competitive team and go in and lose in overtime to the Jets. It's just not an option. Other side note to that is the Saints letting Daniel Jones throw for over 400 yards in your first home game of the season. That's pretty awful too. So it's split between the Titans losing in overtime and the Jets, and the Saints defense letting Danny Dimes throw for 400 yards and losing at home for the first time in a year and a half. So
you know what? For the second week in a row, we're in lockstep, but on two different sides of the argument. Because my best this week is New York teams, because they're not defeated anymore. They won games. They look like legitimate NFL teams. Who knew? Who knew that the Jets were a legitimate NFL team? Here I was thinking that they played pee-wee football. They win. The Giants win against Saints. Like you said, Daniel Jones looked like the GOAT over there, like he's supposed to. Saquon Barkley looked like an NFL running back again, because I guess we've started the Saquon Barkley is overrated train. I don't know. Someone started. I've seen that online. And then the Jets, like we've said 1,000 times on this show, beat the Titans. And Zach Wilson, I mean, outside of that one interception he had where he looked pretty awful, played pretty well. He had some decent throws. I don't know if they'll keep it going. If you give me 1 second, I'll pull up who they're facing coming up. Let's see. We got the Jets playing the Falcons. There's the potential to make it 2 in a row there because the Falcons aren't good. And then the Giants play the Cowboys, who I don't know what decisions they're going to make next. Maybe they'll release Dak Prescott. We don't know. I don't know what's going on in Jerry's head. So I think that probably not going to win that one. Probably won't make it 2 in a row. I don't want to jinx it because I'm going to say that, and then the Cowboys are going to get rolled by 40 by Daniel Jones. But things are looking on the up and up for the New York teams, looking like legitimate NFL teams, which, by the way, since they won, that only leaves the Lions and the Jaguars as the 2 0-4 teams this year. Lions, I think, will win a game. I don't know what their schedule looks like, but they've been feisty enough in games where they could probably pull one out. Jaguars, I have a little less hope for. I don't really know what's going on here. Urban Meyer's in all sorts of hot water. They're not very talented at all. I don't know what's going on there. But my best is New York teams. They looked like they belonged in the NFL for once. I don't know. Do you want to end on your best or my worst? What are we going to go with here?
I think my best is actually a bad thing, but it's so funny that it is the best thing that happened this week, and that's Urban Meyer going to a bar after getting another loss. When apparently, from what I've heard, he was supposed to be visiting with family, and instead of visiting with family, he went out to a bar and was dancing with a college girl. And
that was not his wife. That was not his wife.
No, that was not his wife. And then proceeded to release a statement that essentially said, nothing that happens on my team is my problem anymore. And I just don't care. So A lot of people think he's bombing for this USC job, which I don't think is any sort of an upgrade because USC is also awful. So
Yeah,
it's
but
like,
at
dude,
that point, Urban can be Urban and recruit and do what he wants to do. Urban's
yeah,
realized that you
exactly.
can't go to the NFL and sit in someone's living room and get them on your team. That money
Yeah.
actually
So
matters.
it's this whole thing where it's like, it was so hysterically bad. And even the owner released a thing that was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, we hired you to coach a team and you're not doing anything to do that.
You're grinding
And it
up on a
was so,
college girl instead.
yeah, it was so absolutely horrible that it was the best thing that happened in the NFL this week.
Okay, I like that one. My worst of the week is us because we are the worst curse possible. To recap, we said 2 weeks ago the Bucks are the best team in the league. I'm pretty sure I uttered the words unbeatable. They were beat by the Rams by like 20 points the following week. Then last week, we decided to double down on our take and say the Rams were the best team in the league now. They lost to the Cardinals by like 20 points. And then last week, one of our segments, second and goal, I believe it was that we ranked the Raiders, Broncos, and Panthers based on viability as 3-0 teams.
Every single one of them got clapped.
Every single one of those teams lost. And
by a lot.
Yeah, just to recap some others, I'm pretty sure that I said that the Falcons looked lost and were in a state of nowhere, might not win a game or something like that. I said something like that, and they ended up winning the following week. What else have we said? We said, I think before the season started, we said that we trusted the Ravens more than we trusted the Chiefs, and the Ravens have not looked the best this year. Granted, neither have the Chiefs, but
And neither have the Chiefs.
yeah, we are the worst jinx in the world. So, I mean, who have we talked about this episode? Cowboys, I trashed on them for 20 minutes, so they're going to win. At least that's good. They said the Titans are frauds. They're about to go to the freaking Super Bowl. And the Patriots, we said we're showing signs, which means that they're going to finish the season without winning a game. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and honestly, it's wildly impressive, right? Like, we're 2 guys who just randomly talk about stupid sports shit on the internet. And we're making these predictions, and then teams are getting blown out, right? The Raiders looked awful against the Chargers, who, all credit to the Chargers. The Chargers look really good.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm going to say about the Chargers. I'm not going to say anything else about them because I really like watching the Chargers, and I love Justin Herbert. So that's it. I'm done with that one. I don't care about the Raiders. The Raiders can get blown out all they want. I don't care. The Raiders are stupid. And the Broncos are the Broncos. They have all the talent in the world, and they can't do a damn thing with it.
Teddy Bridgewater running the show. So
yeah. So I mean, my thing with the Broncos, if they don't do well enough, and they can get a guy like Sam Howell coming out of the draft, or even Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati, I think would be a great fit for them. We'll see what happens, but. Anyway, besides that, we can say all the shit we want. It's just going to hurt whoever we talk about. So maybe we should just start trashing on teams all the time and get them wins, because that's how it looks at this point.
That reminds me, I said the past 2 weeks in a row we've been saying we need to talk about college football, and we haven't yet. So that's a next week thing. Maybe then we'll have to compliment Spencer Rattler to have the curse work against him. No, we have to. We can't trash him, or he'll win the high.
I cannot say good things about Spencer Rattler. I will trash on any other thing in the country, like Notre Dame, because you Notre Dame. But I will never say a good thing about Spencer Rattler for the rest of my life. I don't care if the Patriots draft him eventually and win them a Super Bowl. I will never say a single good thing about Spencer Rattler.
I guess that's going to have to be a next week thing. We're going to have to jinx some college teams. We're going to have to work methodically. I'll have to trash on Michigan so that my prediction that they'll make the playoff comes true. Which, by the way, we're 1 week away. We're 1 week away from me being right. They just have to be. I think they have to be like Rutgers or something. So
yeah, but also Michigan State looks real good, so that's going to be a good game.
Yeah. All right. we've reached the end of the show, which means it is now time for you to choose to either kick an extra point, which is you just make the prediction.
Get this shit over with. Give me a trivia. We know my predictions are awful. I'm not going to get the trivia anyway. Let's get this shit over with.
Some silver lining to your predictions. This past week, you actually got it right. I mean, granted,
half of it.
You did so much of a cop-out. I listed your prediction as Brady would break the passing record, which came true. We're going to ignore the part where the Bucs win by like whatever you said, 10 or something like that. You got it right. All right, we're going to give you it because it's been so bad. So I think you're now 1-3 on predictions or something like that. You're currently 0-3 on trivia. You've chosen trivia, which means you're going for 2. Your trivia question today. I think this is, you know what? I'm going to say it. I think you got a chance here. I really think you do. This isn't going back too far in NFL history. Don't worry. I'm not giving you some shit from the 1940s. In NFL history, there have been 3 ties for NFL MVP, which result in co-MVPs and both winning it in the same season. The first coming in 1960 when Norm Van Brocklin, who was quarterback of the Eagles, tied with Joe Schmidt, who was linebacker of the Detroit Lions. This one's a little bit disputed. A lot of places only list Norm Van Brocklin as the MVP. And the last coming in 2003 with quarterback Peyton Manning and quarterback Steve McNair of the Colts and Titans, respectively, winning it and tying MVP. That was part of Peyton Manning's back-to-back MVPs. What 2 players and division rivals made up the 3rd time that the MVPs tied and finished tied for NFL MVP in 1997? 2 players,
97
division rivals. One of these players was a pretty common face for MVP in the 90s.
Aikman and Naismith? They are on the same.
I'll give you a hint. Aikman is not right.
Damn it! In the 90s.
I don't know if Aikman won an MVP. I'm going to be honest. I'll have to look that up.
I don't think he probably did. Honestly, like we can talk about it all we want. Neither I wasn't even born when the MVP was handed out in '97.
Right. Like I said, one of these players is pretty common winning MVP in the 90s and division rivals.
Montana
in 1997. By the way, Troy Aikman won Super Bowl MVP, but was never NFL MVP.
Montana and somebody. Oh, I don't even know. The AFC was terrible. The AFC East was horrible, so definitely wasn't anyone out there. Actually, most of the AFC was terrible.
Joe Montana finished playing in 1994.
Kelly and Bledsoe, they were playing around the same time. That would be my guess.
So your guess is Jim?
Definitely not right.
Jim Kelly and Drew Bledsoe.
But there's no way that's right.
Yeah, it's not right. I really thought you had this one. I'm not gonna lie. So it was Brett Favre who won 3 MVPs in the 90s. I believe it was 95, 96, 97, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
And Barry Sanders tied for MVP in 1997. I think Barry Sanders eclipsed 2,000 yards that season because that was back in the time where if you ran for 2,000 yards, you were pretty much guaranteed MVP. Unlike nowadays where you run for 2,000 yards and they're like, you're not a quarterback. So,
here's maybe offensive player of the year.
Yeah,
but maybe not.
Maybe Patrick Mahomes is in the AFC, so we're not sure about that one.
Yeah, we might just give him both. Just hold on a minute.
Yeah,
he might get
let's talk to the committee here. Damn, I really thought you had that one. I'm not gonna lie. I actually knew that one without looking it up. I just had to look up the year.
I thought Barry Sanders stopped playing before that.
He finished playing in 1999, I believe. It was his last year. He played from, I think it was 89 to 99, right? I think he only played 10 years. Yeah. because he was a Detroit Lion and you couldn't stand playing for the Detroit Lions. Crazy
Also,
enough.
His biggest of last week, the Detroit Lions owner getting booed during Calvin Johnson's Hall of Fame ceremony.
Oh yeah, another Lion that retired way too early because he was a Detroit Lion. Crazy enough, the linebacker Joe Schmidt, who tied for MVP, was also on the Lions, so which means the Lions have 2 MVPs who actually tied with another person for their MVPs. So I guess
That's such a Lions thing to do.
Yeah.
To tie for something you should
Instead
win.
of winning it outright. Yeah. All right. That's the show. Thank you guys for watching. If you like the video, make sure to drop a like, drop a comment under the video, subscribe to the Clutch Gene, turn on the notifications so you get to see when our videos are. If you're watching part 2, go back and watch part 1 where you'll see me get really, really angry for about a half hour. I don't think there's a point in the first half hour of the podcast where I'm very happy. But if you already have, thank you so much. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great week.
Temptation when you get the vibration won't do you no good. It won't do you no